Hello friends, in international relations, today we are going to study about European colonialism. As we all know, the planet Earth is divided into various continents. Among these continents, European continent is considered to be industrially rich, natural resource wise it is prosperous, and it has also achieved uh, colonialism during 17th and 18th centuries. Many of the European powers, such as Great Britain, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, they were competing with each other for colonies in many parts of the world. So, in today's lesson, we'll be discussing about the very meaning of colonialism, the features of colonialism, definitions to the idea of colonialism, and different forms of colonialism, different phases of its expansion, and how the colonialism is collapsed and the decolonization process started throughout the world. So, first of all, we'll be discussing about European colonialism. European colonialism is a pattern of domination and control of European powers over the political and economic institutions of Asia, Africa, and South America. This is described as colonialism. It's a kind of a domination of European powers on the countries of Asia, Africa, and South America. As we all know, Asia is the biggest continent. Asia can be understood in four parts. One is South Asia, second one is Southeast Asia, third one is Central Asia, and fourth one is West Asia. So in South Asia, we have India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan. These are the countries. In Southeast Asia, we have the countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Burma, Philippines, Indonesia, and all other countries, Japan, China, and other countries. In Central Asia, we have Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and various other countries. Likewise, in West Asia, we have Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Yemen, and other countries. So this is how all the countries of Asia were dominated by the European powers, particularly the British. Great Britain has dominated a good amount of countries, a good amount of land, and so many countries. So the British Empire is very often described as an empire that has not seen the fall of the sun. That means wherever the sun rises and wherever the sun sets, you can find many lands of colonies occupied by British Great Britain. So this is how all the countries of Asia, Africa, South America were politically dominated and economically exploited by the European nations. And domination of industrially developed European powers on the economy, society, and politics of less developed countries or developing nations is called colonialism. So colonialism is nothing but all the industrially developed European powers dominating the economy, society, and politics of less developed countries or developing countries. We have categorized less developed countries in three continents: the countries of Asia, the countries of Africa, and the countries of Latin America. So these countries are less developed, and some of these countries are making efforts to develop themselves. So they are called less developed countries or developing nations. So these countries are dominated by the industrially developed political and economic powers, which are called as European powers: Great Britain, France, Sweden, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Germany and other countries. So the domination of industrially developed European powers on the economy, society and politics of less developed countries or developing nations is called as colonialism. And India is no exception, and India has also been colonized by Great Britain from 17th century to the middle of 20th century. In fact, India was colonized by Great Britain from 17th century to 20th century. In 1947, India got independence, and with the process of nationalist movement led by Mahatma Gandhi, the decolonization is achieved by India. But India has experienced so many centuries of colonial rule by Great Britain. So India had been colonized by Great Britain from 17th century to the middle of 20th century. But during 17th century, it was only expanding itself. But in 18th and 19th centuries, it has consolidated itself. And by 20th century, it started decaying, and the decline of colonialism is very rampant. And with the advent of nationalist movements led by Mahatma Gandhi in India, India got independence in 1947, and India is decolonized. So this is how the colonial power, Great Britain, has ruled India for so many centuries. And by 20th century, the middle of 20th century, India was decolonized. The process of decolonization started with the advent of nationalist movements in various countries. So 17th century is the genesis of colonialism. Throughout the world, it started with mercantile capital growing and mercantile capital taking its way to various new lands like Asia, Africa, and South America. The 17th century is the genesis of colonialism, and 18th and 19th centuries, colonialism is consolidated. All the European powers, particularly Spain, Portugal, Dutch or Holland, England, France, Italy, Germany, and after some time, even Russia also entered. So these countries have consolidated their colonial rule in the 18th and 19th century. And by 20th century, there was decline. With the Second World War, with the end of Second World War, the process of decolonization is also started. So 17th century is the genesis, 18th and 19th centuries are consolidation, and 20th century was decline of colonialism. So during 20th century, powerful nationalist movement crumbled down the colonialism and decolonization process started. Here in India, we have seen the great nationalist movement led by Mahatma Gandhi crippled the British Empire, and Britishers have no other way except granting independence to India. So this is how during 20th century, powerful nationalist movements have come up in various countries by different leaders. Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Robert Mugabe, Milton Obote, Mahatma Gandhi, Sukarno, Anwar Sadat. So likewise, there are so many leaders, and these leaders have brought nationalist movement in their respective countries during 20th century. And as a result of these nationalist movements, which are very powerful, colonialism is crumbled down and the decolonization process started. So this is how the nationalist movements of 20th century were the fitting answer for the decline of colonialism. So during 20th century, powerful nationalist movement crumbled down, the colonialism and decolonization process started. And decolonized nations of 20th century, which are liberated from the yoke of colonialism in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, emerged as the third world countries. So we call the countries as third world countries. These countries are in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and which are under the yoke of colonialism for centuries. And they are liberated due to their powerful nationalist movements in their respective countries. In Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and these countries. And in Africa, South Africa, Southwest Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zaire, Kenya, Botswana, Eritrea, Somalia, and other countries. Likewise, in Latin America, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Uruguay, Paraguay, and other countries. So this is how the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America are liberated from the colonialism and became decolonized during 20th century. And after the process of decolonization, these countries emerged as third world countries only to become powerful as national powers and regain strength as third world countries. So the process of development is started in these countries also, as well unparalleled to the developed countries. And this decolonization of nations which are liberated from the yoke of colonialism in Asia, Africa, and Latin America emerged as third world countries. And the process of political development and economic development, as well as the human development, is also started in these countries. And these countries are also on the verge of achieving development and claiming the status of a developed nation. In today's lesson plan, we'll be discussing about the European colonialism in parts. First part is European colonialism, meaning and features. And secondly, we'll be discussing European colonialism, its nature and definitions. And thirdly, what are the different factors that have contributed for the European colonialism? And fourthly, colonialism under different phases. Colonialism in its initial stage was the mercantile capital stage, where the colonial rulers have come to their colonies only to have trade and commerce in these respective countries. But after some time, they have established factories and companies, industries in these countries. That's called as the industrial capital phase. Lastly, the colonialism has also grown up and expanded itself to the finance capital stage. So this is how there are three phases: the mercantile capital phase, the industrial capital phase, and the financial capital phase in colonialism. So colonialism expanded itself from 17th century to 20th century in different phases. So we'll be discussing about these phases. After that, we'll take the British colonial empire as an example and how it expanded itself. For example, in India, taking India as a colony and as an example, how the British colonial empire pursued various policies of annexation, consolidation, appeasement, conciliation, political accommodation, and how it has made efforts to get the legitimacy for its rule from the people and expand itself. So this is how British colonial empire, how it has expanded itself. By taking India as an example, we'll be discussing India as a case study. We'll be discussing about British colonial empire and its expansion in India. After that, we'll be discussing about the decolonization process in a very brief manner before making critical evaluation of the lesson. So this is how our lesson plan has different parts. First of all, we'll start with European colonialism, meaning and features. Secondly, European colonialism, nature and definitions. Thirdly, what are the different factors that have contributed for the growth, evolution, growth and development of European colonialism. And after that, while expanding itself into a mighty force, how colonialism has changed its phases from one phase to another phase: the mercantile capital phase, the industrial capital phase, and the finance capital phase. So we'll be discussing different phases of the expansion of colonialism in this lesson. And after that, we'll be taking India as an example and how the British colonial empire expanded itself, and how India has become a ground for making political experiments to consolidate its empire by Britishers, British colonial rulers. So we'll be discussing the nature of British colonial empire and the expansion of British colonial empire in India, and the policies that are pursued by the British colonial rulers to get legitimacy from the people and to expand itself into a mighty force. And after that, we'll be discussing the decolonization process in many countries in the world in general and India in particular. After that, we'll make a critical evaluation of our lesson. So we'll be first discussing about European colonialism and its meaning. Colonialism is a term derived from the word colony. Colony. There are so many colonies in and around Hyderabad, and there are so many colonies upcoming newly in distant places. Actually, what is the word colony? Colony means people settling in a distant place by detaching from a larger nation is called as a colony. So the process of establishing colonies by European powers is called as colonialism. So colonialism denotes political domination and economic exploitation on colony by the dominant states. So these states are inevitably the European states of 17th and 18th century, starting with Spain, Portugal, Holland, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Russia. So these are the European powers, and that have snatched different territories in Asia, Africa, and South America. And they have continued to have their political domination. And through that political domination, they have also established economic exploitation. So political domination and economic exploitation of European powers on the non-European powers, the non-European colonies, is called as colonialism. So colonialism denotes political domination and economic exploitation on colony by the dominant state. So here we have given some of the European nations that have resorted to the process of colonialism, such as Spain. Spain is the oldest power of colonial race. So it has made a competition with Portugal and Dutch. So Spain, Portugal, France, England, Germany, Italy, and others. And these countries have followed the policy of colonialism as a foreign policy choice. They have taken colonialism as a foreign policy choice, and they have expanded their borders into non-European areas. These non-European areas include the Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So European nations such as Spain, Portugal, France, England, Germany, Italy, and others followed the policy of colonialism and expanded their borders into non-European areas. This is called as colonialism. This is called as European colonialism. A colonialism resorted to by the European nations. And there are different factors that have led to the process of colonialism. We'll be discussing about that. And first of all, we should know what are the countries in Europe that have resorted to colonialism. Firstly, Spain, after that Portugal, France, England, Germany, Italy, and others. So this is how so many countries of European origin, European nations. So these countries have followed the policy of colonialism as a foreign policy choice, and these countries have followed the policy of colonialism and expanded their empires. Now let us see colonialism and its features. The first and foremost feature is integrating the economy of the colony with the dominant state economy and global economy. So the dominant state is the big state, the state which dominates, and the state which exploits the colonies. So integrating the smaller colony economy with the dominant state economy and the global economy. So this is the first and foremost features of colonialism. So before that, all the colonies were independent economically and politically, and they have the economies that caters the needs of the native population, the agricultural needs, the food grain needs, the needs of the handicrafts, local services. So these are different sectors that were catering the needs of the local communities. So there was no global demand and there was no integration of the local economy to the global economy or the local economy to the dominant state economy. But here in colonialism, as soon as the colonialism is established, all the smaller economies are integrated with the main dominant state economy and global economy. For example, in India, India as a colony has experienced the integration of its economy to the economies of Great Britain and also to the economy of the globe. So global economy and the dominant state economy. So these are the two economies for which the economy of the colony are integrated. So integrating the economy of the colony with the dominant state economy and the global economy. So this is the first feature. Second important feature is foreign political domination on colony by dominant state. Here the European countries are called as the dominant states. So they have dominated the colonies and they have also dominated political systems in the respective countries of Asia, Africa and Latin America. So foreign political domination on colony by dominant state is another important feature. For example, Great Britain is a dominant state and it has dominated, it has made political domination in India, Burma, Sri Lanka and various other countries. So this is how foreign political domination on colony by dominant state. And thirdly, reproducing nature of colonialism as it expands itself without additional capital. So colonialism itself is evolved for capital, profits, and various other advantages. So as part of the capitalist system, capitalist expansion, colonialism has come, and colonialism facilitated the expansion of capitalism. So without any additional capital, the colonialism expanded itself only with the profits of one sector being invested in other sector. For example, the profits of agriculture are invested in industry. The profits of industry are invested in transport sector. The profits of transport sector are invested in railway sector. The profits in railway sector are invested in garment sector or textile sector. So that's how it has reproduced itself and it has expanded itself without any additional capital. And just by concentrating only on few sectors of the economy, in the later stages, these few sectors have reproduced colonialism by themselves and expanded the other sectors also as well. So reproducing nature of colonialism as it expands itself without any additional capital. So it did not require any additional capital because the capital accrued as profit from one sector is invested as capital in other sector. For example, the profits of agriculture are invested in industrial sector. The profits of industrial sector are invested in railway sector. The profits of railway sector are invested in plantain sector. The profits in plantain sector are invested in textile sector. The profits of textile sector are invested in some other sector. So this is how the colonial masters or the colonial rulers have not made any additional capital, but they have only multiplied the political gains and economic gains or capital gains from one sector to another sector. So colonialism has the reproducing nature as it expands itself without any additional capital. So this is one thing. And unequal distribution of profits and rewards between metropolis and the economy. Metropolis means the European powers. The European powers that have resorted to colonialism are called as metropolis. And the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, which were colonized and were exploited and were dominated by the European powers, are called as colonies. So between metropolis and colony, the unequal distribution of profits and rewards. So it's more advantageous to the metropolis than to the colony. So all the profits, all the revenues, all the rewards that are accrued from the rule of these countries are diverted to the metropolis or the native countries of the colonial powers. So all the profits in India are taken to Britain, and Great Britain is prospered due to its colonialism in India. So this is how unequal distribution of profits and rewards between metropolis, that's called the colonial power, and the colony. And colonialism is an important feature is that the disparity in production system. The metropolis or the European nations are highly developed countries. So they produce high technology, high productivity, high wage, and capital intensive goods. But in colony, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, in these colonies we have low technology, low productivity, low wage, labor intensive goods are there. So this is how these two economies, on the one hand you find a highly developed, highly technological, highly productive, highly waged, capital intensive goods sector in metropolitan countries or the European powers. On the other hand, you find low technology, low productivity, low wage, and labor intensive goods in colonies. That means in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So this is how there's a disparity between the metropolis economy and the colonial the economy of the colony. And colonialism has made the rulers to intervene into the social life of the colony. So that means the colonial power often interferes in the social life of the colony through reforms, religious conversions, modernization of administration and education, transport, communication, and trade sectors. So the colonial powers have made so many reforms. For example, in India, they have abolished sati, they have abolished child marriages, they have encouraged women remarriage, widow remarriages, and they have made some curbs on untouchability. So this is how they have intervened into the social life of the colony through various reform legislations, progressive legislations, and they have also resorted to religious conversions from Hinduism to Christianity, and they have encouraged religious conversions. But they have also modernized the administrative structure. They have departmentalized the administration. They have brought so many reforms in education. They made education accessible to poorest of the poor people also, irrespective of caste, color of the body, religion, gender. So they have made administration in educational administration accessible to people, and education accessible to people with scientific education. So that's one thing. And they have also brought in modernization in transport sector, communication sector, and trade sectors. So this is an advantage of the colonial rule. Colonial rulers have brought reforms, and they were against the social evils that were prevalent in various colonies, and they have also encouraged religious conversions, and they have also modernized the administration, education sector, transport sector, communication sector, and trade sectors. Now let us see what is the nature of colonialism. Colonialism is a stronger nation destroy the political and economic basis of the weaker nations. Here we find a stronger nation, that's called the European nation, and we feel a weak nation, that is the nations of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So the stronger nation destroy the political and economic basis of the weaker nations. This is the nature of colonialism. And the stronger nation always makes political domination and economic exploitation. They dominate and they virtually govern these territories, and the administration is in the hands of colonial powers. And with this political domination, these countries have controlled the colonies, and by taking advantage of this political domination, they have also resorted to economic exploitation. They have exploited the raw material, They have exploited the revenues. They have also exploited some of the economic advantages of these countries. So political domination and economic exploitation is also there. So this is the nature of colonialism. Now let us see some of the definitions to the term colonialism. Hans Margantho, in his great work, Politics Among Nations, he defines colonialism as expansion of state power beyond its border. Expansion of state power beyond its border is called colonialism. Here in European nations, they have expanded their state power beyond their borders and entered into non-European states, non-European races, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So the expansion of state power beyond its border is called colonialism, according to Hans Margantho. And the second important political scientist, an expert in international relations, Parker T. Moon, he says, domination of non-European natives races by totally dissimilar European nations is called as European colonialism. So European colonialism, according to Parker T. Moon, is a domination of non-European native races by a totally dissimilar European nations. That means European nations dominating the non-European nations, non-European native races. So it's a domination of European nations on the non-European native races. The non-European native races are Asian races, African races, and South American races. So these races are called as non-European races, and these people in these three continents were totally dominated by the European nations. So these are the definitions to the term colonialism. And there are various factors that have contributed for the growth and expansion of colonialism. The first one is Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution has brought so much of production. So all the European powers, they were in search of raw material to run their industries. So since the raw materials in their countries is inadequate to their factories, they have entered into new lands to mobilize raw materials. So in search of raw materials, they have resorted to colonialism. And further, they wanted to sell their finished goods in new markets. So search for markets for surplus goods is the second reason. And they want also some lands to invest their excessive capital in colonies. They have already achieved profits in their respective countries. So they want to transfer that profit into some other country and expand their profits, expand their investment. So investment of excessive capital in colonies. So these are the three reasons caused by Industrial Revolution. And that made the European powers to search for new lands in Asia, Africa, and South America. That led to the expansion of colonialism. And secondly, geographical discoveries. Geographical discoveries, that means discoveries of sea routes, like Vasco da Gama invented the sea route to India. Columbus invented sea route to America. Magellan invented route to Australia and Philippines. So this is how the geographical discoveries also led to the search for new lands, and ultimately the lands of Asia, Africa, and South America were chosen by European powers and for colonization. And thirdly, factors contributed to European colonialism. The third one is political causes. In political causes, we can see the European powers within Europe have tough competition among themselves. Spain, Portugal, Dutch, Holland, Germany, France, Britain, and Italy. They are fighting among themselves to acquire the status of a superpower. And with the expansion of their empire, with the expansion of their borders, they can even want to claim supremacy over each other people, other nations. So in order to gain supremacy over other nations of Europe, they have resorted to colonialism. This is also another reason. And fourth one is aggressive nationalism. So in all these countries, there are nationalistic tendencies and people are motivated towards their countries with patriotism and emotional zeal. And people have the sense of belonging. And people want to expand their territories with the sense of aggressive nationalism. So this also has prompted the nations to go for other ends, other areas and expand their borders. And fifthly, need for credible defense in war. So they wanted some soldiers, they wanted some more the weaponry, artillery, they wanted the cavalry, they wanted some forces to fight war. So they can even find some of the human resource for their credible defense, use it for war in these countries like Asia, Africa and Latin America. And likewise, there's also a religious reason behind the expansion of colonialism, that is the desire to spread Christianity. Here we see the Holy Bible and cross here. So European nations are all almost Christian nations. Some of them are Catholic and some of them are Protestant nations, denomination. So they want to spread Christianity and resorted to colonialism. And further, the writings of Hegel, Nietzsche and others, which have visualized the expansion of the borders and state aggrandizement. State aggrandizement is nothing but the expansion of the borders of the state. And by making claims on the expansion of the borders, they motivated the state to resort to colonialism by finding new lands in different continents like Asia, Africa, and South America. So these are some of the reasons. Now let us discuss what are the different phases of colonialism. So there are different phases of colonialism. And firstly, it started with the mercantile capital phase. So all the European nations have entered into Asia, Africa, and Latin America as merchants or traders. So for almost 100 years during 17th century, there was hardly any progress in colonial expansion, but they remained as merchants, traders, and commercial people and businessmen. So this phase of colonialism is called as mercantile capital phase. In fact, this is the genesis of capitalism. And after that, the profits of mercantile capital are invested in industries. So this is called industrial capital phase. So as I was telling you in the beginning itself, the colonialism reproduced itself. With the profits of one sector, it invested these profits in other sectors. Likewise, it has expanded its economic system. Likewise, in mercantile capital phase, it has acquired certain profits. And these profits are used to invest in industries. So the mercantile capital phase, almost the 17th century and half of the mid-18th century are considered as the period of mercantile capital phase, where the European traders have entered into Asian markets, African markets, and Latin American markets. They are traders and commerce people and businessmen, and they have made business with these countries. During this time, the political domination was not there, and still the local rulers were there. But as soon as they have acquired industries, and mercantile capital phase has given way to industrial capital phase, the industrial capital phase has taken root, and most of these countries were captured by the colonial powers by making political bargains, by making wars with the local rulers, and by making compromises with the fellow European nations. They have expanded their respective empires. So this is called as the industrial capital phase. And the third phase is finance capital phase. So in the finance capital phase, the profits of mercantile phase and the profits of industrial phase are converted into finance capital. So with this finance capital, new sectors like plantation sector, railway sector, textile sector, pharmaceutical sector, so these sectors are all. So this is how colonialism has expanded itself with three phases: the mercantile capital phase, the industrial capital phase, and the finance capital phase. Now let us see the role of British colonial masters in India. We take India as an example. So in India, we see Britishers have entered into India and have first made a conquest, annexation, and consolidation. That means they have made an agreement with the local rulers. Mughals were there in India, and some of the local rulers, princely states were there. So they have made conquests, they have made annexations. Lord Dalhousie is the father of all the annexations. And after that, they have made significant consolidation of their territories. So this is the one policy, one type of policy. And secondly, they have also followed the policy of conciliation and counterpoise. They have made certain amendments and appeasement policies to satisfy the needs of certain people like Muslims, depressed classes, and various other sections. They have granted reservations to various sections. So this is how the policy of conciliation and counterpoise was there. And they have also, in this phase, brought certain draconian laws like the Rowlatt Act, Arms Act, and other acts, Ilbert Bill. So this is how they have, on the one hand, they resorted to conciliation. On the other hand, they also resorted to counterpoise with their draconian legislations. And thirdly, they have also followed the policy of divide and rule. So they have divided policy, the people particularly, on caste basis, religious basis, color of the body basis, gender basis. And they have ruled the country comfortably for over 300 years or 250 to 300 years. So this is how there are different policies that are pursued by Great Britain. The policy of conquest, annexation, and consolidation, policy of conciliation and counterpoise, and policy of divide and rule. So these are some of the policies that the British India has followed. So after that, the decolonization process started with powerful, mighty nationalist movements. For example, in South Africa, Nelson Mandela; in India, Mahatma Gandhi; in Nigeria, Julius Nyerere; in Kenya, Kenneth Kaunda; in Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe. So this is how great leaders have undertaken mighty nationalist movements in respective countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And these powerful nationalist movements have put a full stop for colonialism, and the decolonization started. As a result of decolonization process, the European nations have granted political independence to their respective colonies. So this is called decolonization process. And powerful, mighty nationalist movement have led to the decolonization process. If you make a critical evaluation of the whole process of colonialism, colonialism is started with European powers like Spain, Portugal, Holland or Dutch, Great Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and other countries, coming out of their countries and capturing areas of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and they have shaped and reshaped them as colonies. First of all, they wanted raw material for their industrial revolution and necessities, and they wanted to have economic markets for their finished goods, and they also wanted certain avenues for their investment proposals. So for all these views, for all these advantages, colonialism started. Colonialism expanded itself into different phases: mercantile capital phase, industrial capital phase, and finance capital phase. And lastly, colonialism is ended with the powerful, mighty nationalist movements led by various leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Anwar Sadat, Sukarno, and various other leaders. So this is how colonialism stopped, and the process of decolonization is started. And the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America have experienced colonialism, and these countries in these continents have experienced political domination of European powers like Great Britain, France, Dutch, Portuguese, Spain, Italy, and Germany. And these countries also have resorted to economic exploitation of their colonies. So as a result of powerful nationalist movements in the last leg of 19th century and first half of 20th century, the powerful nationalist movements in the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America have led to the decolonization process, and decolonization has happened as a result of powerful nationalist movements. So this is how colonialism is ended. In fact, the genesis of colonialism is 17th century. The consolidation of colonialism is 18th and 19th century. But 20th century has seen its decline. So this is how it's a story of or 4 centuries, 17th century to 20th century. But now we don't find any chances of colonialism anywhere. But the colonialism, according to some critics, is entering itself in a new form called neocolonialism. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.